Imagine finding out your only sister, the one you grew up protecting, planned her wedding behind your back, and purposely left you off the guest list. That's what happened to me. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. My name is Rachel Morgan, I'm in my mid-30s, and I've always been the dependable one in my family. I'm the person who shows up when there's a crisis, the one who covers for mistakes, the one who quietly sacrifices so others can shine. My younger sister, Samantha, everyone calls her Sam, has always been the golden child. She's the one our parents dote on, excuse, and defend, no matter how reckless her choices are. I used to think it didn't matter, because family is family, but then I learned just how invisible I was to them. One afternoon, a cousin I don't even talk to much reached out to me, almost in passing, and asked if I'd be coming to Sam's wedding. My stomach dropped. "What wedding?" I asked. That's when the truth spilled out. My sister was getting married in our hometown. The invitations had gone out weeks ago, and I hadn't even been told, let alone invited. At first, I thought it had to be some sort of mistake. Maybe my invitation was lost in the mail. Maybe Sam meant to call me and forgot. I called my mom, hoping for reassurance, but instead, I got a knife in the heart. She sighed and said, "Sam just wanted her big day to be drama-free. You can be a little critical, Rachel. It's her choice." I was speechless. Critical? After all the times I helped Sam out? I was the one who covered her rent when she couldn't make it. I bought her books in college when she ran out of money. I even paid for her car repairs once, just so she wouldn't lose her job. None of that mattered. When it came down to the biggest moment of her life, she chose to erase me from it, and my parents backed her up. I can't describe the mix of anger and heartbreak that hit me all at once. It felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. I wasn't just excluded from a party. I was cut out of my own family's story. The people I thought would always stand by me had chosen sides, and it wasn't mine. That night, I sat in bed and replayed every memory of growing up with Sam, protecting her from bullies, helping her with homework, listening to her cry over boys. I kept asking myself how someone I gave so much to could shut me out so coldly. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I didn't matter to them in the way I thought I did. And that was the moment I knew I had to stop waiting for their approval. Instead of begging for a seat at a table where I was no longer welcome, I was going to take a seat somewhere else, one I chose for myself. That's when the plan started forming. When I finally confronted my parents, I expected shock, maybe even anger on my behalf. Instead, I was met with uncomfortable silence. My father wouldn't meet my eyes, and my mother twisted her hands like she was bracing for a storm. That's when the truth came out. They had known about the wedding all along. They hadn't forgotten to tell me. They had chosen not to. I felt my chest tighten as my mother explained it like it was nothing. "Sam just wanted to keep things simple," she said gently, as though that would soften the blow. Then came the real sting. She added, she wanted her day drama-free. "You can be a little too critical sometimes, Rachel." The words sliced through me. Critical? After everything I'd done, after years of being the one to pick up the pieces, that was how they saw me. I wasn't a sister, not even a daughter worth standing up for. I was a potential problem to be managed. My father nodded along, as if it was reasonable, as if excluding me was the best choice for everyone. I couldn't speak at first. I just stared at them, waiting for one of them to realize what they'd done. But the realization never came. To them, this was justified. To them, I was disposable. That was the moment the betrayal settled in, heavy and sharp. I had always been Sam's protector, her cheerleader, her safety net. I had believed that counted for something. But standing in my parents' kitchen, hearing their excuses, I realized it didn't. All of those sacrifices, all of that loyalty, it was invisible. My heart felt like it had been hollowed out. It wasn't just Sam who had cut me out. It was both of them, my own parents, people I trusted to value me. And in that instant, I knew nothing would ever feel the same again. I went home that night replaying every moment I had ever stepped in for Sam. I thought about the semesters when she couldn't afford her textbooks, and I quietly covered the cost so she wouldn't fall behind. I remembered the time her old car broke down, how I spent my savings getting it fixed so she could make it to work. There was even the stretch when she called me crying about rent, and I transferred money without hesitation. Every memory came rushing back like a cruel reminder of how one-sided it had all been. The more I thought about it, the more the weight pressed down. To my family, none of it mattered. All those times I put her first, they vanished the second she wanted me gone. I was standing on the outside of a circle I had spent years helping to hold together. That realization was harder to swallow than anything my parents had said. For a moment, I considered fighting back, demanding answers, maybe even confronting Sam herself. But then something shifted inside me. I was done begging for space in a family that pushed me away. I didn't want to stand in their living room, shouting or crying, only to be dismissed again. If they didn't want me there, fine. I would stop trying to force it. So I opened my laptop and pulled up flights. My eyes landed on a destination I had dreamed about since I was a teenager, Hawaii. I had always told myself I'd go someday, but someday kept getting pushed aside for obligations, for family, for responsibilities that were never returned. That night, I decided someday was now. I booked the ticket, almost trembling with relief as I hit confirm. It felt like the first choice I had made in years that was purely for me. No guilt, no hesitation, no waiting for anyone's approval. Just freedom, waiting on the other side of an ocean. The week Sam was walking down the aisle, I was boarding a plane with a single suitcase, and no plans other than to breathe somewhere far away. When the flight lifted off the runway, I felt a knot in my stomach. A voice inside whispered that I should feel ashamed, that I was abandoning my family during a milestone. That guilt sat with me the first couple of days, lingering in the quiet moments when I was alone. But something began to shift once I settled into the rhythm of the island. I laced up my shoes and hiked along trails where the air smelled of rain and earth, and the sound of rushing waterfalls drowned out every painful thought. On the beaches, I let the sun warm my skin and watched the waves roll in, steady and calm, as if reminding me that life could be simple. Strangers smiled, struck up small conversations, and treated me with a kindness that felt unfamiliar compared to what I had left behind. Each sunrise chipped away at the heaviness I had carried for so long. I realized I could breathe without waiting for judgment or disapproval. The quiet mornings with coffee overlooking the ocean felt like medicine, and slowly the ache of betrayal dulled. For the first time in years, I wasn't the responsible sister, the dependable daughter. I was just myself, and that was enough. Back home, my phone buzzed with missed calls and messages. I didn't answer. I saw my mother's name flash on the screen more than once, followed by cousins and relatives I hadn't spoken to in months. But I let it ring out. I wasn't ready to be pulled back into their chaos. Not when I had finally found a piece of peace I thought I'd never get to hold. Halfway through my trip, just as I was beginning to feel lighter, my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't expected to see. It was my cousin, the same one who had first let the secret slip about the wedding. For a moment I considered ignoring it, but curiosity won. When I answered, her voice was breathless, almost excited. "Rachel, you won't believe what's happening," she blurted out. My stomach tightened, not from guilt this time, but from the sharp edge in her tone. She didn't bother with small talk before spilling everything. The night before the ceremony, Ethan had been caught sending messages to one of the bridesmaids. Not just friendly words, but the kind no groom should be writing on the eve of his vows. I sat there in silence as she went on. According to her, Sam had discovered the texts through whispers and screenshots passed around like wildfire. By the time morning came, it wasn't a rumor anymore. It was the only thing anyone at the venue was talking about. Guests had started arriving, only to be met with sideways glances and hushed conversations in every corner. The picture she painted was pure chaos. The bridal party was divided, the families were arguing, and the tension was so thick she swore you could feel it in the air. People who had traveled hours to celebrate were now standing around trading gossip about Ethan's betrayal. She said it felt less like a wedding, and more like a scandal unraveling in real time. I listened quietly, my heart pounding, caught between disbelief and a strange sense of inevitability. Back home, everyone was scrambling to contain the disaster. And there I was, thousands of miles away, untouched by the storm I'd been excluded from. The morning of the ceremony arrived, and instead of celebration, disaster struck. What had begun as whispers turned into undeniable truth. Ethan hadn't just made a mistake the night before. He had been carrying on with the bridesmaid for months. The evidence was too clear to deny, and by the time the sun rose, the secret was out for everyone to hear. Guests gathered at the venue expecting vows and music, but instead they were met with confusion. The officiant stood waiting, musicians shuffled awkwardly, and the bridal party looked pale and shaken. Then word spread like wildfire. The ceremony was off. The announcement sent a ripple through the crowd, shock mixing with murmurs until the room buzzed with disbelief. Samantha broke down in front of everyone. Years of entitlement and attention shattered in a single morning as she realized her carefully planned future had crumbled. She screamed, sobbed, begged for answers, her makeup streaking while friends tried to calm her. The scene was heartbreaking, but no one could undo what had already been exposed. My parents, desperate to contain the damage, rushed around making excuses, whispering reassurances, and asking guests to respect their privacy. But in a town where everyone knows each other, there was no stopping the story. By the end of the day, what should have been remembered as a celebration was being recounted in diners, church pews, and grocery store aisles. The scandal had a life of its own, and no amount of denial could silence it. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. One notification after another, all with the same name flashing across the screen, my mother. At first, I let it ring out, setting the phone face down on the little table beside my lounge chair. The waves crashed gently against the shore, and I took a slow sip of the cold drink in my hand, letting the sweetness wash over me while I pretended the world back home didn't exist. But curiosity has a way of wearing you down. After the fifth or sixth missed call, I finally played one of the messages. Her voice came through shaky, pleading, nothing like the calm authority I'd grown up with. She begged me to come back, saying Sam was falling apart and that the family needed me there. The desperation in her words was thick, as if I were suddenly the only person who could hold them together. More voicemails followed, each one more frantic than the last. She said things like, "Rachel, please, your sister needs you," and "This family can't get through this without you." It was strange hearing her speak like that, as though all the years of being overlooked had never happened. As though now, with their perfect picture destroyed, I was expected to be the anchor again. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the horizon, and let the phone fall silent in my lap. They hadn't wanted me at the celebration, but now that everything had unraveled, I was the first person they thought to call. I listened, but I didn't answer. Not this time. Lying under the Hawaiian sun, it struck me how differently things could have turned out. If I had been there, I would have been standing in the middle of that disaster, forced to smile through whispers and stares, carrying the weight of a mess that wasn't mine. Instead, I was thousands of miles away, with no one expecting me to explain or defend anything. The thought settled over me like a quiet victory. The very exclusion that had hurt me so deeply had shielded me from humiliation. While my relatives were tangled in shame and gossip back home, I was free, watching the tide roll in, breathing easy, untouched by the wreckage of a day that was supposed to be perfect. It was the first time I didn't feel tethered to their expectations. No scolding looks, no guilt trips, no role to play. Just me, my own choices, and the simple peace of knowing I wasn't responsible for patching up their mistakes. For once, I wasn't the one holding everything together. As the sun dipped lower and painted the water in gold, I realized how light I felt. There was no bitterness in that moment, only relief. I hadn't lost anything by being shut out. I had gained something priceless. For the first time, I was truly free of their grip. When I stepped back into town, the air felt heavier, thick with the weight of what had happened in my absence. My parents were waiting, their faces drawn tight, not with concern for me, but with the urgency of people desperate to repair an image. The moment I walked through the door, my mother started in. "Family sticks together, Rachel. You should have been here." Her voice trembled with a mix of anger and shame, as though my presence alone could have fixed the wreckage. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just looked at them and said quietly, "You made it clear I wasn't part of this family when you cut me out of the wedding. You don't get to rewrite the rules now." The words hung in the room, and for once, no one had a reply. My father shifted uncomfortably, my mother's eyes flickered, and the silence that followed was louder than any shouting match. Samantha was there too, sitting on the edge of the couch. Her shoulders hunched, her makeup carefully done as if that could mask the ruin of what had happened. But she never once looked at me. Her eyes stayed fixed on the floor, her bitterness radiating in the space between us. I could feel her humiliation, but I offered no comfort. There was no need for yelling, no need for dramatic gestures. My calm refusal to carry their burden spoke louder than anger ever could. I didn't absorb their pain this time. I let it rest exactly where it belonged, with them. That was my quiet revenge, and it was enough. I didn't linger after that visit. The house I grew up in no longer felt like a home, only a reminder of where I'd been shut out. Within weeks, I packed my things and accepted an offer I had been hesitant about before, a promotion that meant relocating to a new city. This time, I didn't let hesitation or family obligations hold me back. I signed the papers, found an apartment, and started fresh. Life began to open in ways I hadn't expected. I built connections with people who valued me for who I was, not for what I could do for them. I spent evenings laughing with coworkers who became friends, weekends exploring my new surroundings, and mornings waking up without the weight of constant disapproval. Every step forward reminded me I didn't need to chase love from people who had already proven they couldn't give it. The urge to check in with my parents or reach out to Sam faded. I no longer felt the pull to earn a place at their table. That need had dissolved the day they made their choice, and I had finally accepted mine. Looking back, I realized the betrayal that once broke me had also freed me. Being excluded forced me to stop waiting for validation and start building a life on my own terms. Sometimes the harshest cuts make space for healing. And when others close the door on you, the sweetest revenge isn't anger or bitterness. It's finding joy where they never thought you would. Do you think I was right to walk away from them, or should I have given my family another chance? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more stories.